Hello, welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Show. We may have a problem. For some reason, YouTube has made a double live stream link. I don't know why it's done that. It's ever since they've updated to this new Studio Beta, whatever the hell they're calling it. For some reason, it keeps doubling up on videos. So I'll apologize to everyone watching now. I'm just going to make sure it's not there. Oh, I've left my volume on. No, it's gone. So hopefully everybody will find this. Slightly worried that they won't, but hey ho, what are you going to do? Although I'm going to wipe this one. It's been a double from the one we did yesterday as well. So let's just delete that one forever. Yes, we don't need that. We've done the episode, and there's an archive version of it. So anyway, hopefully people find this. Hopefully there's no problems. I don't know why it did that. Also, sorry that we are only smashing it at 3:30 today rather than our usual 1 o'clock time. I had some meetings today. Can't tell you what they're about just yet, but I will in due course. Which means Ups and Downs for Raw is now come and gone. So make sure you go check that out over on What Culture Wrestling, as and when you so fancy. What else should you do? You should follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Simon316. If you are indeed watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget, Simon's Pro Wrestling Show is also on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, all of it. So if you'd rather listen to my voice as you get across with your day, you can. And patreon.com/Simon316 is how you can support me. Again, there's a link in the description below if you are watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube too and you want to ask a question, you got a statement, you want to call me a bald asshole, you can do so using the super chat. All that money goes back into my personal projects. And on a daily basis, I get asked this: Simon, why don't you have merch? Simon, you should have merch. Simon, have some merch. I have merch. It's simonmiller.bigcartel.com. Ties more into my pro wrestling career, terrible term, than anything else, but you can go and you can go check that. You can go check that stuff out. Otherwise, let's talk about some wrestling. Let's talk about some Raw. I mean, thank you to Andros as well in the chat who says, hope I've gone to the correct video as 2 are showing up on your YouTube page, Simon. It is, isn't it? Let me just double check to make sure I fix that, because the last thing I want to do is send people to the wrong place. I know this doesn't make for a good live stream, and nor does it make for a good podcast. In fact, it makes for a worse podcast. It's pretty abysmal all around, but, you know, if there's a problem and people aren't going to the right feed, then that absolutely sucks. But no, I think everything is good. Yes, it looks good to me. I'm happy. We'll find out. Shout out to Lamel KH2 in the super chat who said, to the people who defend Hell in a Cell. Interesting start. I like it. Saying Bray doesn't care about titles. This is my favorite toy. A golden Oscar up for the Fiend Bray Wyatt. No, I agree. I think Bray Wyatt's done very well with the championship so far. I wouldn't have turned it blue, but I know that WWE likes their branding. That's cool. Not as you know. I can't think of the word. I just don't care. I just move on from that kind of stuff. And I know I'm overexposed as well. It's for some reason, what do you call it? Streamlabs. That's what I use. It updated and it's screwed up all my settings. But I was late, so I thought, you know what? Screw it. I'll be overexposed today. I don't mind being overexposed. Let's talk about Raw. Good show, I thought. Really good show. I enjoyed it massively. Already been called a bald asshole by the people that have seen Ups and Downs. That's okay. A little spoiler. What do I give it? 8 ups to 2 downs? I always write my stuff down. It's over here somewhere. Yeah, 8 ups, 2 downs. And I stand by it. I thought it was a really entertaining, good show. I thought you had fallout from Survivor Series. I thought the Seth Rollins heel turn was excellently done. I also like the fact there were some people complaining, and it's fine, I understand the criticism, but there were some people saying, well, why when we got to Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins did he still act like a face? And at the end, when the Authors of Pain came and beat up Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins in the corner going, come on, you can eke this stuff out, man. You can tease, you can allow him a few weeks to change and, you know, switch up his style. Maybe he was doing that with the Authors of Pain to lure you into a false sense of security. You know, maybe that's what it was. Maybe he does have some kind of pact with those two guys, but he doesn't want to give the game away just yet. We see that in wrestling all the time. I don't mind this eking out a little bit, especially because when it comes to what do you call it? I can't even think of the right word that I'm looking for. But when it comes, well, basically, because if we are turning Seth Rollins heel, I like the fact that he has a genuine motivation, which is, I haven't changed, the fans have changed. It's very Bret Hart from 1997, which I'm a huge fan of. And if that is the case, and Seth Rollins believes that he's right, and he believes Raw is a worse show, and he believes all his actions that he's taking are going to make Raw into a better program, then I don't want to see him do a 180 all of a sudden. I want it to be a slow burn. Otherwise, it's not realistic. Like, if you genuinely believe in your own actions, you're not all of a sudden going to be wrestling differently or whatever. It should take its time. And I want that story to play out over the next few weeks, which is why, again, if it turns out was it Akam and Razor? I think that's the Authors of Pain's name. If it turns out that they are his new J&J security, I like that comparison. I think it's good. Then hell yeah, let it build, let it grow, let it do all these things. I have no issues with that, whatsoever. So I really dug it. I'm not gonna lie, when we were doing the town hall thing at the start and Seth Rollins in the ring, I was a bit, sometimes I let my common sense part of my brain take over, and I was a bit like, wait a minute, why would Seth Rollins be leading this cause? He's not the champion. He has no authority as far as I'm concerned, but I understand he's considered the top guy on Raw. And as soon as he started saying the Raw roster sucks, Randy Orton sucks, Charlotte Flair sucks, I suck, I was like, great. This is the Seth Rollins that I've wanted. We wanted to boo him. Now we have a reason to boo him that doesn't feel awkward. So as I said on Ups and Downs, again, please check it out. A tip of my cap to WWE for listening to the fans and making the changes that we deemed appropriate. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, and I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go. I hope he goes into a proper feud with Kevin Owens. I hope that we make Kevin Owens a proper huge babyface, which I never really feel like we've gone all in on, because when he came back, there was some stop-starting with the stuff with the New Day. And Seth Rollins is ready to be booed. Seth Rollins is ready to go back to being that asshole. And if he is surrounded by two massive bodyguards, that's all the better still. And it puts AOP in a position that I want them to be in, because I think AOP are good. So by and large, I love it. It pleased me immensely, and I enjoyed how it built throughout the show. And again, the real cool thing, it was a different heel turn. It wasn't that he was friends with Kevin Owens and he turned his back on him or any of the Shield type stuff that we saw years ago. It was, no, man, we just lost to NXT. So we had fallout from Survivor Series 2, which I appreciated. We just lost to NXT. We used to be the A show. Now we're finishing in third place when we do Brand versus Van versus Brand. And I'm blaming everyone else but myself, even though I lost too. You know? Who did he get beat by? Keith Lee. Keith Lee pinned him. So it's 2 marks up for me. 2 marks up, 2 thumbs up from me. Quick shout out in the super chat to AJ Parker. He said, hey buddy, what happened to the H title? I defend it on most shows that I wrestle at, my friend. I bring it to the ring with me. Sometimes I put it on the line. Sometimes I won't. I'm still planning how to get the rematch with Adam Mayhem. That is on me. I need to work on that. I've been quite poor. But no, I'm a defending champion. I'm a double champion at the moment, because I am a Kapow Tag Team Champion, and I am the H Champion. Who would have ever thought it? Damn Lemley in the Super Chat says, you'll get a hand on the heart, by the way, in case you're new. I don't know why. Just something I started doing one day, and now I can't stop. You're my favorite bald a-hole. Lol. Thanks, Dan. I am the bald asshole. I'm proud of it. And if I ever get to do a proper heel run, I will call myself the bald asshole. And my man Prish Sharma in the Super Chat says, now that Seth is a heel, who should defeat Brock for the WWE title? Which is an absolutely fantastic question. And unfortunately, my answer is I don't know. That's a fantastic point of view, because I was worried at one point we may go back to Brock and Seth, but you're right, we can't do that. Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens would actually be in my shout now I think about it. I understand it's not great to turn somebody heel and have them lose, but if we're going into a program between Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens is going to be treated as our top babyface and eventually be the guy to shut Seth Rollins up. What match haven't I seen? Brock Lesnar versus Kevin Owens. What match would I love to see, especially if something like WrestleMania 36? Brock Lesnar, Kevin Owens, and I'd let Kevin Owens win, and then you cement him as this fan favorite. Look at the reaction he got at Survivor Series and NXT TakeOver. People like Kevin Owens. So now the question has come up. That would be my first and potentially only choice. It gives me a Brock matchup I've never seen. It gives me a Brock matchup I've always wanted. And look, I'm a huge Kevin Owens fan. I have been since day one. I loved him since he was Kevin Steen. And one of the reasons I do love him so much is everything that he said in his promo last night on Raw when he looked down the lens. He's always been one guy. He's always been a little bit different. He's always done his things his way. Got kind of an underdog vibe for him in that sense. And everybody roots for the underdog. I just think he's superb, but I never think, apart from his first heel run in the WWE when he got to Raw and NXT, which I think was great, I thought he was always ready to have, like I say, a proper on-top good guy run, and now's the time. And if we treat that right, I think we could do well with it, which excites me. D. Mosk in the Super Chat says, keep it on, Simon. You make all-out days better. That's very kind. I appreciate that. I like to know, I said this the other day, I say it again, I put a lot of pressure on myself when it comes to these type of things. I want people to enjoy the content. So when someone does get in touch and say that they do, puts a smile on my face. And shout out to Sean as well, who has not only thrown some money in the super chat, but he gave me a little rose. I like that. Like Seal. A kiss from a rose, although no kissing. Mostly because Bobby Lashley and Lana aren't in the room. So the hilarious story that came out afterwards as well, and look, take it with a pinch of salt. It's rumor, it's speculation, rumor and innuendo, as Conrad Thompson would say, is that at the start of Seth Rollins' promo at the opening of the show, they were chanting CM Punk, of course, as the last day in Chicago after WWE's 4-day run. And because they were chanting CM Punk, Seth Rollins said, I challenged him to a match, but he'd rather sit down in LA, referring to WWE backstage. And apparently, once he got back to the gorilla position where like Vince McMahon and Triple H and all the producers sit, apparently Vince McMahon was not happy that he'd mentioned it, because it sounded like WWE was building towards a match, and they're absolutely not. And if you recall back in the day, when Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, and Steve Austin teased doing a program on the Steve Austin show, I'm sorry, it's Paul Heyman and, they were all in on it. Vince McMahon didn't like that either, because he doesn't want any fan to think that a match could happen on his show when 100% of the match can't happen on his show. And right now, there is no deal between WWE and CM Punk. It's CM Punk and Fox. So yeah, apparently Seth Rollins had his hand slapped, which I thought was quite funny. He's been doing the good guy bit for so long, and it seems all good with his relationship with Vince McMahon. Turns heel, straight away gets told off. It is, I mean, who knows if it's true, because AJ Styles mentioned it last week, I believe, or at some point, and we didn't hear anything about that. But there are a lot of people talking about it that, yeah, they weren't best pleased. And I don't believe there is any deal with CM Punk and WWE right now. The real thing I find so confusing, if you listen to podcasts such as mine and you hear people talk about this last week and this weekend and backstage, so many people are going, I can't believe that CM Punk came back on backstage when you have a pay-per-view in Chicago. I'm like, yeah, but he's not, as far as we know, he's not coming back to WWE right now, so the only place he could return was backstage, because that's his new working agreement. And everybody's throwing their hands in the air saying, oh, it's disgusting, we've done it all wrong. Yes, we've done it wrong if he had come out at the Survivor Series. But as we kind of all knew, he didn't come out at Survivor Series, so that was never on the table. So the only place he can come back is on the program that he signed up for. I don't understand the issue. I don't understand the problem. Would it be better if he came back to WWE and wrestled? Of course it would be. That's what we all want. But if that's not what he wants, and that's not his deal, then I don't expect him to do that. So that kind of flew over my head. Greg McKnight in the super chat, hand on the heart for you. Thank you for the support. Give me Brock Lesnar versus Matt Riddle at Mania 36. Well, after the weekend, I want to see Shorty G, Mr. Skittles against Matt Riddle. My word, those two were good together. I guess it's because they've got like collegiate backgrounds. Matt Riddle was in MMA. Chad Gable's been to the Olympics. It was just so good. That doesn't have to be main event. Just put it on anywhere. Put it on 7th for all I care. I just want to see them tangle. And I tell you what, now I'm starting to formulate a WrestleMania 36 card, which is not one that I ever anticipated. If I got Kevin Owens versus Brock Lesnar, and I got Matt Riddle versus Shorty G, I'd start to enjoy that. Not going to lie. Lamel KH2 in the super chat says, it vanished. Build Kevin Owens as a massive babyface. He beats Brock. I'm into it now. Now it's popped into my head. I'm glad that question was brought up. I'd love to see Kevin Owens beat Brock Lesnar. That would make me happy. Deep down in my pants. I regret saying that instantly. Move on. AJ Parker says, the Miller entourage is growing. Nikki Crocs. These are all things that I've said on Ups and Downs, in case you don't know. Nikki Crocs, Bucky Lynch, and now we have Tolkien. Can we see gold you have on here or Ups and Downs? Can we see the gold you have on here? I should get it. Unfortunately, it's just over there. Next episode, I'll put all my belts. I'll get a shelf made. I'll move my shelf behind me and you can see all my belts. Yeah, I'll be one of those guys. I green screen at the moment. Maybe I should start doing them more here in my lounge. Let me know. Let me know what you prefer. We can do whatever you guys want. Yeah, for some reason, on Ups and Downs, when I was writing whatever I think it changed Seth Rollins' names to Tolkien. That made me laugh, because imagine Kevin Owens versus J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of Lord of the Rings. That is, that's quite the different matchup. But it did. It really made me chuckle. Shout out to Sean Gearhorn in the super chat. Always supporting the podcast. Sean, you're a good man. Thank you so much. I get setting up Seth versus Kevin Owens, but how do you not have Viking Raiders now lay out Seth, since they only got the win for Raw? And that's a good point. At Survivor Series. I guess that's why they weren't at ringside, as far as I can remember. Maybe they were. But you are correct. That is probably something they should have mentioned. They should have said, hey, Seth, we did it, plus we're the Raw Tag Team Champions. Maybe that's where you go, though. That's a cool little program. If we're going to have Seth Rollins teaming up with the Authors of Pain, Viking Raiders can come out and go, look, you completely ignored us. Authors of Pain, why you teamed up with this guy? Let's go. Seth and KO, you can do some triple threats. Some six-mans. Seth and the Authors of Pain versus the Viking Raiders and Kevin Owens. I'm all good for this. That actually fits. This is why I enjoyed wrestling so much this weekend. There was consistency. The only kind of thing that fell off that was Kevin Owens then re-teaming with Team Raw to then go against the people that he had teamed up with on NXT. But so many people I never thought it was Kevin Owens going back to NXT. I thought it was Kevin Owens getting revenge about what the Undisputed Era had done to him on Raw. But nobody else seemed to think that. So either I've gone crazy, I don't know, but I never thought that. I never thought he'd be down on NXT. I thought that would be a redundant move at the moment. Not because NXT sucks, but because I think Raw does need him. I totally agree with what he said at the pay-per-view. Right now, if Kevin Owens left, there'd be a massive Kevin Owens-shaped hole in the WWE Raw program. Undead FB Goo, also always supporting, always appreciate it, Undead. Always good to see you. At the end of AOP... So at the end of Raw, when AOP were leaving, I heard AEW chants. Matt Hardy is back. Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black will be good. I agree. Yeah, see, talking about that end angle, if you don't know, it was Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. AOP come down, interrupt the match, beat up Kevin Owens, don't touch Seth Rollins. Seth looks like he's going to attack. They don't. They just go their separate ways. And then, Seth Rollins definitely makes us know that he is a heel when he curb stomps Kevin Owens twice, so when he's down already. The crowd seemed to hate it, which is fine. If you buy your ticket, you can do whatever you wanted. But I really enjoyed it from a story point of view. Like, it gives me a reason to tune in next week. Is there an alliance here? What's Seth's motives? How's he going to change with all of this? But they were booing. They were chanting AEW. They said bullshit at one point. They were not happy about it. But I guess you don't necessarily care about the overall narrative when you're there in the building, right? You care more about the spectacle. And I understand, especially when it comes to WWE, why you'd want to finish. There are too many non-finishes when it comes to Raw especially, it being a 3-hour show. And it's kind of a shame because if we didn't do that, when we did get non-finishes like this, that would make it more interesting because it wouldn't feel like the status quo. I enjoyed Matt Hardy being back. Bit weird because, again, many people on Twitter were like, oh, he's gone back to his old Hardy Boys attire. Well, last time I saw Matt Hardy on TV, he was already in his old Hardy Boys attire, so we already had that return. But I love Matt Hardy. I mean, a decent match with Aleister Black, Buddy Murphy. It's not a bad name to beat. He's a proper legend. He's a proper hero. I just don't know what they're going to do with Matt Hardy. It doesn't seem like Jeff Hardy is coming back anytime soon. His personal problems seem to have reared their head again. And to me, Matt Hardy has loads to offer. So I would do loads with Matt Hardy. I mean, I've said this before. No one ever agrees with me. I'd give Matt Hardy a world title reign. I think it's something that I know whether you deserve things or not in wrestling seems to be a contentious issue. But I think it'll never happen, I don't think. But I would love to see it. I've always been a big Matt Hardy fan. And yeah, Buddy Murphy versus Aleister Black is a great feud, especially because now we have established, what do you call it? The lines, I guess. I wasn't sure who was going to be face and who was going to be heel, but Buddy Murphy is definitely the heel. Aleister Black is definitely the face. I don't need to see Aleister Black in his room anymore because he's only in his room because he's waiting for someone to pick a fight or someone's picked a fight. So you can go outside now, Aleister. You don't need to be in your dark room. Get some vitamin D and everything will be okay. But pretty cool. Interesting too because who wins that? Who gets the bigger push is essentially what we're asking here. Has Aleister Black got the got a bigger upper side, brighter upside to WWE, or does Buddy Murphy? We'll find that out. I do a best of 7 with them. And that way, if you do have, 6-7 incredible matches, both of them will come out the other side just shining. My man Nick C in the super chat says, always supporting as well. Morning, Simon. Rusev Lashley segment was actually good in my opinion. Does this finally end at TLC and what should the stip be? Also, 5th of December. Yeah, cool. He'll be on the podcast again. Good. Thanks very much, man. And you can come on the podcast too. Cheap plug, I should say. Again, patreon.com/Simon Miller 316. You are able, there's a tier. You can come on the podcast and we can chat about wrestling for a little while. And also, shout out to pinsandknuckles.com as well, who do support this podcast. And talking about my own merchandise, if you go to pinsandknucklesmerch.com, they are carrying an exclusive Simon Miller t-shirt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one. I'm going to start wearing it so you can see it, because I understand it's a much better way to get that stuff across. I thought Rusev Lashley's segment was fine. I think it's the best thing they've done since they've started doing this angle. And the reason was nice and simple. There wasn't awkward kissing between Lana and Bobby Lashley, which I don't necessarily like. And Rusev took control, right? He's been a guy that's been beaten down. His wife cheated on him. He's been bad all around. I need to see him get some kind of comeuppance. And he did here, even though ultimately the bad guys got what they wanted because the restraining order, the restraining order issued by Lana meant he got arrested. But even then, when he was in cuffs, he was still beating up Bobby Lashley. He pushed that big metal truss down. onto him, basically killed him in many ways. And you had the kind of twist when Lana was being interviewed later and she was more concerned about herself than she was Bobby Lashley. I thought it was a decent step forward. Yeah, I mean, they probably should end it at TLC. How you resolve this, I don't know. I guess it should be some kind of no holds barred. Maybe you do a TLC match. I mean, some kind of hardcore fight. At least it makes sense. And it's not like Hell in a Cell where we just put it in a cell for the sake of things. These two would hate each other. You know, we've got one man who got cheated on, the other man who is the person that cheated. So you probably do want to hit each other with chairs. Logic. All I need is logic. It's just a very simple thing. Dan Lemley, my man, says, I would like to see Keith Lee versus Brock after Kevin Owens. I would like to see that as well. In fact, my Brock Lesnar would like to see matches would be Kevin Owens versus Brock. And please get involved in the chat if you've got any ones I don't mention. Keith Lee versus Brock. Matt Riddle versus Brock. Bobby Lashley versus Brock. Going through the roster quickly in my head. Adam Cole versus Brock, because Brock is very good when he's with a smaller guy. And if it was allowed to be done properly and we weren't just jobbing him out, I'd like to see Sami Zayn versus Brock. I think done well, those two would kill it as long as the motivation was there. And like I say, Sami Zayn was actually allowed to have some offense, which is the issue. PJ Barnes, the Super Chat, says, it's not Raw related, but is there anybody else who put someone over as well as Daniel Bryan? His match on Sunday was the most exciting Fiend bout to date. No, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Daniel Bryan is not only one of the best workers of the last 10, 15 years, but he's probably one of the best wrestlers ever. And it's mostly, his in-ring talent is why, but it's also because of the way that he views wrestling. He loves the art of grappling or in-ring action so much that he doesn't really have much of an ego. So when he does approach a match, he puts his entire self into it, which is why even when he was having feuds with Big Cass, I was interested in it. I wouldn't have minded if he beat The Fiend because he's Daniel Bryan. All of the feuds he's had, be it with Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, Triple H, Batista, Randy Orton, they're all good. And it's exactly for what you say, is because he goes out there to get his opponent over. And because he's so good at wrestling, he also gets himself over. And then when you hear him in interviews away from the ring, he's a lovable, endearing person that cares about the environment, not his heel character like the real Daniel Bryan. The irony of that statement. And he's just great. He's just great all around. I think with as much love as he does have, he's still incredibly underrated. I think sort of, 10, 15 years after he's gone, to match the 10, 15 years we were just talking about, we're going to look back and go, Daniel Bryan was one of the best. One of the best. There is no two ways about it. He has an intangible a quality that just makes you like him. And that is so important when you're trying to be a babyface, especially a babyface in WWE. And that's why I think he got booed when he was the heel. I think half the reason we booed him is just because we want him to be successful at everything that he does. So we are booing because he's calling us idiots. We're also booing because like Daniel Bryan. He wants us to boo, so we'll boo. I totally agree. Easily the best Fiend match to date. Where we go with the Fiend now, I don't know. But I just think Daniel Bryan is amazing. I've been thinking this for a while now. He's incredible. PJ Barnes also weighs back in with somehow Brock managed to sneak off with the belt again and not be on Raw. They disguised it with a good show. Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted Rey Mysterio to win. That was the other awesome thing about Raw. That title win, the reaction from the crowd, and the two matches that preceded it. I thought the Fatal 4-Way was badass. I thought AJ versus Rey Mysterio was badass. But it wasn't a massive deal, but the one little dink it had for me was, if only we had done this at Survivor Series, the crowd were ready for it then too. It was for a bigger championship against arguably a bigger opponent. I mean, literally, of course, but figuratively as well. I just think it would have been a really cool moment. I think it would have been an amazing, satisfying conclusion to that story. It's not the end of the world. Excuse me. The fact that we were still able to do it, with the United States Championship is fine. Like I said, I loved it. I was completely satisfied, and I felt like I'd been rewarded for watching. But yeah, I can't lie that, Brock not being on TV with the the WWE title that we have seen for the last few years, and Rey Mysterio not getting it, just a little bit, it irks me a little bit. But moreover, it's just awesome. I thought Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton were just, not having a laugh in a bad way, but they were enjoying themselves, and that came across. Some of the sequences between Rey Mysterio and Ricochet blew my mind. That finish, for example, I know it was a surprise roll-up from nowhere, the most devastating move in all of WWE, but it was so smooth and it was so different, I didn't even care. It looked like that's something that could win a match. Oh, I tell you, when Ricochet did the wall run off Randy Orton's chest, that match was ace. And so was AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio. That whole, 30 minutes of TV, however long it was, 10 out of 10. It was excellent. It's one of the reasons I walked away from Raw thinking I had a really good time watching it was that section. And if you didn't like it, that's fine. I genuinely thought it was badass. Silence is her weapon zero in the super chat says, your thoughts on Seth as a face versus him being a heel? My opinion on the matter, he's very similar to Edge, an okay face but excels when being a bad guy. I totally agree, as we were talking about earlier. I think the reason he's able to sort of fit into this role so quickly is because, especially at the moment where he does have a grievance with the fans. I mean, most of it comes from social media and falling out with them there, but still, you can use those real life emotions and apply them to his character. And I think a little bit, he's talked about it in interviews, I think a little bit of him does feel like the fans turned on him for no reason and he didn't change anything. But that's fantastic, because again, if he can use that, we'll hate him more and he'll hate us more, and we'll have a proper bad guy on the books. But yeah, I think he's a much better heel than he is a face. I don't think he goes as strong in that direction as The Miz. Like, I think The Miz should just be a heel all the time. I just think it works. I think Edge was a better face than you're giving him credit for. I think at one point, people were really behind Edge. I think Seth can easily flip and flop between both. But I do think he's a better bad guy. And I'm desperate. Well, not desperate, but I'm excited to see what WWE does with him now. I think they pulled the trigger at the right time. Maybe a couple of weeks too late, but that's fine. Get through the pay-per-view, start afresh, start anew. And going into 2020, I mean this, like if you do have Seth Rollins as an absolute dick, he can probably win the Royal Rumble again. I don't know how you pull that off, but there could be something in that. I was thinking about it earlier. I didn't really have any front runners. I don't know whether you want someone to win the Rumble back-to-back in 2019, because it'll probably get a bad reaction on the internet, which you do have to think about. But I like it. Rag Haven't Ended Super Chat says, Rey winning the US title made me happy, but still would love to see a moment a la Royal Rumble 2006 and WrestleMania 22. It's really easy to like him. Absolutely is. And I think they know that because they've been trying to introduce us to the new Rey Mysterio, be that Sin Cara or Humberto Carrillo or Kalisto or whoever, for a long time, and yet Rey Mysterio is still the guy they go back to, and that's because he's incredible, he's a legend, he's ageless, he's timeless. Even if you've never seen Rey Mysterio before and you've just started watching wrestling, he'll impress you. Basically created a whole new genre of wrestling, or at least popularized it in America and helped shape what modern wrestling is. Rey Mysterio is almost essential to everything we know about wrestling in 2019. And the fact that 45, he can still be going out there and having these matches with people like AJ Styles and winning titles and getting those kind of reactions, you're right. I'd like to see him have one more world title run. I would have loved it 24 hours or 48 hours ago now. But alas, we didn't get it. But, I think you've got to take things as they come. We didn't get the WWE title reign. Hopefully he has a good US title reign. Unless, of course, he says to Humberto Carrillo, who got absolutely smashed on Raw, hey, next week, do you want to have a match? And then Humberto wins. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. PJ Barnes, the Super Chat says, would you rather Shayna Baszler be drafted to Raw or SmackDown? And would you want Ronda to return to the same or opposite show? I mean, you don't have to rush this. Shayna Baszler, to me, has done all she can do in NXT, and shifting her to either Raw or SmackDown probably helps people like Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, Dakota Kai, Tegan Nox, Kaylee Ray, because they then can create sort of Generation 4 or whatever the hell it would be. And you probably need to shift Shayna Baszler across to do that. So she can lose the title. And, if you can somehow do that so Becky Lynch costs her that, and Shayna Baszler then, free of any NXT ties, can go to Raw and have a proper feud with Becky Lynch, which culminates at WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble if Ronda Rousey is going to come back, I think that rocks. And I think Shayna Baszler being on a Raw or SmackDown helps everybody, because we do need new opponents for the likes of, Asuka and Kairi Sane will break up eventually, Charlotte Flair is there, there's a bunch of other women waiting to go into programs, and I think Shayna Baszler is so good. If you watch any of my stuff, I'm a big fan. Yeah. She will work. I'm not saying she can't stay in NXT and smash it, because she would do, but I think there is more upside all over, and generally, if she goes to Raw or SmackDown, I'd put her on Raw and put her in a Becky Lynch feud. I'd never beat Becky Lynch, but that's not a conversation we're going to have today. I'm intrigued to see what I think, because Becky Lynch wasn't on Raw. I think she's going to be on NXT. I think there's going to be some altercation there between those two, and we'll build. As for Ronda, Ronda should go wherever Becky goes. There's no point having Ronda Rousey back and not doing that rematch. People would be livid. So, yeah, I think you get Shayna and Becky out the way, and then you go on to Ronda Becky. Absolutely. Paul the Cripple, amazing name, in the Super Chat says, if Aleister Black went up against Andrade, who would Selena side with, her husband or the guy she manages? That's just one of those amazing wrestling scenarios that gets thrown up. Because, yeah, Zelina Vega in real life is managed to Aleister Black, but obviously in the kayfabe world is associated with Andrade. I presume, look, you're not meant to know that. I don't think they would mention it on TV. And if you don't mention it on TV, it's not real. I hope we do see Andrade versus Aleister Black. I think they'd have a great match, and I think there'd be obvious chemistry between Aleister Black and Zelina Vega, so you could probably have a lot of fun with it too. I hope to see it. I hope Buddy Murphy and Andrade for the rest of the one, beyond the rest of the year, only got like 6 weeks left less. I hope this is not another stop-start push, because we've seen that too much, like take Humberto, right? I don't know what they're doing with him. It's going to take time. You can't expect to get massive reactions right out the gate. So I hope we stick behind Buddy. I hope we stick behind Aleister Black. And I hope that, by the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, they're in high-profile matches because they're great workers and they seem to have some kind of connection with the crowd. But you've got to let that grow and you've got to let it evolve. And you can't just stop doing it because it didn't work straight away, which is sometimes what we do. Silence is her weapon. Zero says, do you think WWE should cut back on the gold? I think yes. While less titles means less title shots to the roster, it can help make the matches feel more important and make the division seem more full. I mean, I say this all the time and no one ever agrees. I'd have one world title. I'd get rid of either the WWE or the Universal. I mean, probably the Universal. I'd allow the world champion to go to both brands. I do that for the women's as well. Gets a bit more complicated with the tag team, but I don't see why you can't have a women's tag team on Raw and a men's tag team on SmackDown and separate the brands that way. And I think you can probably have a mid-card title on each side, so the IC and US. That's personally what I would do. I don't think it's going to happen. I think in 2019, WWE sees that it's still important. And I still think if you win one, it's an incredible achievement. I will never go against that. But I kind of feel like they don't feel as essential or crucial as maybe they once did, especially in the late 90s. But that can always change. If all of a sudden Zack Ryder won the world title tomorrow, there would be a huge outpour of probably both love and vitriol on the internet because people care about that stuff. They buy in. Let's not forget what happened when Jinder Mahal won it. That's all anybody wanted to talk about for months. And that's because people still believe in the World Championship, maybe more than the other ones. But that just goes to show there's always a way to build those things back up. So yes, I would always do less titles. The fact there's only one in AEW for the men at the moment, aside from the tag, I think just makes it more interesting. But you also need to balance it out. Like, you need to have a prize for the guys who aren't in the main event, which is why I think 3 or 4 titles is enough. But I don't think WWE is ever going to go back to that. Shout out to Jose Ruda in the super chat, who's just thrown some money in there. Thank you, Jose. That is very kind. I always appreciate it. And yeah, like, other than that, there wasn't that much bad. I mean, look, again, it made no sense that Rey Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, who else was in that match? Randy Orton and Ricochet just went, hey, Ray, can I have a match? Even though I don't care about this beforehand. AJ, can I have a match? It was a bit strange, but it's such a minor criticism because, again, the fallout was ace. I thought Drew McIntyre had his best performance in ages. And I really don't know what kind of feud we're going to go into because obviously AJ Styles now hates Randy Orton after Randy Orton got involved and basically cost AJ Styles the championship. But I also saw Randy Orton RKO Drew, which cost Drew the match. So I don't know where we're going, but not in a bad way. I like that. I like that AOP is back. I thought the Charlotte Flair-Oscar match was fine. Again, as soon as I say anything is good, I get inundated with people going, yeah, but it was clunky and they kept forgetting stuff and it was awkward. Yes, I know, I watched it. But overall, when that was done, my overall feeling was, I loved Kairi Sane just jumping at ringside, which for some reason distracted Charlotte Flair. I loved the fact that Oscar spat 72 litres of the green mist into Charlotte's face. I do think it's absolutely ridiculous and dumb the referee can't put 2 and 2 together. But moving away from that, I enjoyed it. I thought I don't know who the heel of the face is when it comes to Charlotte and Oscar. Charlotte just comes across like an asshole all the time. So that's maybe something we need to question. And it was weird Becky wasn't on the show, but let's wait till the end of the week. There may be a bigger plan in place. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was easy to watch. I just thought it was really, really easy to watch. I don't think anything overstayed its welcome. There were a few surprises, as we've already talked about. Well, if I missed anything, I feel like I can get my notes out from ups and downs, and that way, if I've missed anything, I can figure it out. I don't think that I have. We had that bizarre line by Jerry Lawler and Ric Flair being dead, but if you know, you know. If you don't know, let's not let's not worry about it. But no, yeah, we had the AOP match as well, where they just beat up Zach Rollins. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, overall, sorry, I had a weird text message pop up there. Yeah, overall, just a good episode of Raw. And if you didn't enjoy it and it's not for you, that's okay. You've got Dynamite in, 24 hours? You've got SmackDown on Friday if you prefer that. There's loads of stuff you can watch. Just personally, I thought 3 hours of TV after I'd already digested a lot of content over the weekend with wrestling, it perked me up. And it was, straight away, I was like, I'm interested. And I think the Seth Rollins thing was the right thing to do. Shelby Lynn in the Super Chat says, AOP interfering the KO match confused me a bit. I think that's okay. I think you're allowed to be confused in this sense. I may be wrong. If there's no follow-up to it and there's no story threads on next Monday's show, then fine. But I think you're meant to be a little bit, wait a minute, what's that? I think you're meant to raise your eyebrow. I think it's a seed planter. So that's okay, Shelby. Again, WWE has not the best track record with this, but I believe that this could be good. And again, it was 4 good days for professional wrestling. SmackDown was a little bit all over the place, but it was okay. It was fine. And then obviously War Games great, Survivor Series great, and I'm going to say that Raw was great. I really, really am. That's how I felt about it. And if we go all in with a Seth Rollins heel turn, then hell yeah. The other thing we learned, actually, so I was just getting the news up to make sure I hadn't missed anything. Apparently, there's going to be a new face on Bray Wyatt's Firefly Funhouse. Now, I assume that means a puppet. I'm going to guess it ties into Daniel Bryan. It just intrigued me because clearly they have an idea and clearly they want it to be considered a big deal, because if they didn't, they wouldn't announce it on Raw. Also did a hell of a job promoting and advertising NXT on Raw. Almost every commercial, NXT, Wednesday. Again, you don't have to care about the ratings. I don't think fans should, but you can be interested and you can be intrigued. I can't wait to see what Wednesday does. I don't know what AEW is going to do. I don't know what WWE is going to do, or NXT. I know that Diamond Dallas Page is going to be on Dynamite because he's going to present either Hangman or MJF with the diamond rings. So hopefully MJF wins and beats the hell out of Diamond Dallas Page because he will get serious heat. I think it's going to be a good week for wrestling. I really do. And shout out to Frequently Fly in the Super Chat too, who just says, Happy Tuesday, my friend. Happy Tuesday to you, Frequently Fly. Always good to see you. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you enjoyed Raw. I think that's about it. I don't think anything else is going on. If you have anything you'd like me to talk about it. And the other thing people were going nuts about is Triple H is going to be on WWE Backstage this week. So straight everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's going to be there with CM Punk. I'm pretty sure CM Punk ain't on this week. I'm pretty sure I don't think you'll see those two guys in the room for a very long time. And if you are, they should absolutely big up that fact because people will definitely want to watch it. Because I think most people know... most people know there was animosity between those two. And I think the relationship with Vince McMahon and CM Punk is easier to patch up than the relationship between Triple H and CM Punk, if everything that we've read is to be believed. It sounds like Triple H and CM Punk didn't see eye to eye at all. CM Punk had some choice words with Triple H before he left. I don't know what kind of attitude Triple H takes to that. We know Vince McMahon is very good at forgiving wrestlers if he wants them to come back. But we will... We will see. Otherwise, I think that's it. I'm going through the news now. It doesn't seem like anything is going on. Most people just want to talk about Seth Rollins and the fact that he may or may not have been yelled at by Vince McMahon after the fact. So if there's anything else you want to talk about, just chuck it in the comments and we'll go from there. Otherwise, Silence is Her Weapon Zero says, give Drew McIntyre the Rumble win. The man has improved immensely, and have him toss out Heath and Jinder simultaneously. Drew McIntyre is in a weird spot. He hasn't had a singles belt since he came back to the Raw roster after winning the NXT Championship. He looks like a WWE guy. His matches are great. Like last week, Kevin Owens versus Drew McIntyre, probably one of the best things on the show, if not the best. I think it was. This week, same thing with the Fatal 4-Way. Drew McIntyre was a huge part of that, be it the chops he was doing with Randy Orton or that German suplex, powerbomb suplex thing that he did with Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio. He always looks dominant. I thought this week he was having a bit more fun when he chucked Ricochet, believed, and he shouted, it's good! Like he kicked a football. That, I think, gives him something else. But I don't even know what programs he's in. Because it certainly seems like it's going to be AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. It's like my brain. AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. Maybe he goes into a feud with Rey Mysterio over the US title and it ends with Drew McIntyre winning. You could do that. Although the hint to me is that may be with Ricochet, given that he got rolled up. So yeah, Drew McIntyre's in a weird spot. And that's why that's not the worst idea in the world. I mean, the Rumble's only 6 weeks away. So a couple of months away now. And if Drew McIntyre, in fact, it's 2 months, I think it's the 26th of January, so we're 2 months away from the Rumble. And if you are going to do that with Drew McIntyre, and you are going to have big him up for a huge match at WrestleMania, fine. But does that mean, who would be his match? I can't see The Fiend or Brock Lesnar losing their titles. Do you want to see Drew McIntyre versus The Fiend? Because I'm assuming you can still pick your brand, even though we just had a brand split. And Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre, while amazing on paper, I don't think fits unless one of them goes face, and I can't see either one of them doing that. So yeah, Drew's in an odd position. I hope they iron out for him soon because I think he's got all the potential in the world. And D-Mosk in the Super Chat says, Simon, how about Authors of Pain and Rollins versus KO and the Striking Raiders, since they did win at Survivor Series and Phil Rollins ignored their victory? Hell yeah, we mentioned that earlier. I'm up. I don't necessarily always enjoy six-mans because I think sometimes WWE goes back to the well with that too much. But that's a match I want to see. The Viking Raiders are great. Kevin Owens is great. I kind of feel like there'd be some kind of symmetry there. And look, Rollins teaming up with the AOP, as soon as it started happening, I was like, done. That just works. Because it's got shades of J&J Security, it's got shades of The Shield, and they'll do the triple powerbomb at some point and piss everybody off. I really hope they do it. I really hope it's not a ruse. Andreas Wilson in the Super Chat says, should NXT be included in the Big Four WWE pay-per-views? I mean, not really. There's not even really a Big Four pay-per-views anymore. That's just what old school fans call it because the pillars used to be WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, and tradition has just held up. I mean, they are changing NXT pay-per-views. The one in February is on a Sunday. So they're obviously staying out of NXT AEW's way. Also staying out, because Saturday night can be boxing main events and UFC and MMA, so they don't want to get involved with that. But it does mean, in fact, let's try and find out. I'm going to guess that it's Fastlane in February. I don't know that for sure. It's TBD at the moment. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no links for it. But that's usually February. So that you may get a WWE pay-per-view swiftly followed by NXT pay-per-view on the following Sunday. Is that good or is that bad? I don't know. Until it happens, I can't make it out. Does it go 3 hours? Is that too long? I would probably, my gut says yes, but I don't know. Until I've seen it, I can't make the call. Paul the Cripple is back, who says, perhaps an environmental goat as a new puppet. Not bad, man. Not a bad shout. People would talk about it. People would like it. Bray Wyatt would make it work. Ties into Daniel Bryan. Good shout. If you get it right, I'll make sure I give you a shout out. And my man Anthony Taggart, again, always supporting the podcast and the channel and everything. Thanks so much, man. Do you think Raw and SmackDown should have some general managers again to make some sense of the impromptu matches? I don't know. I was thinking about this. It's hard. If you are going to establish them like William Regal has been established on NXT, then yes. They have done such a good job with that when Dakota Kai pushed him after her heel turn, the crowd, a Chicago crowd, like a hardcore crowd, audibly gasped because they were like, you don't touch William Regal. They believe that he has a certain authority about him. Obviously, when it comes to Raw and SmackDown, that's been watered down too much. So if you do it, you need to create a figure that is not a face, is not a heel, has no bias, like Baron Corbin or Kurt Angle. They just do things that they know are right for the show. So they could have made Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins because they understand they have beef, and what better place to settle that in the ring. I don't want you fighting backstage. It's going to be of a nuisance to the day-to-day running of my television product. So yes, I do think you could do it, but I think you should take your time. I do think you don't overdo it. You don't make a big song and dance like, oh, so-and-so is it? They just come in and they do the job. But it would make sense because, again, as much as I loved it, and I loved it, I can't stress it enough, I was cracking up that Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Ricochet, and Rey Mysterio can just come out and go, me, AJ, I know you meant to find the other guy, but how about me? And someone just goes, yep, and you don't know who that person is. It is a bit dumb. I mean, it is. And from a storytelling or a plot hole perspective, it doesn't work. So I wouldn't mind it, but I want it done tastefully. I don't want it to be a 20-minute heel promo. I'm going to book all the bad guys to win. I'm done with that. We've had that since the late 90s. We do need to move on. Tom Talks Rabbits in the Super Chat says, what wrestling would you watch if this wasn't your job? I get asked that a lot. I don't know the answer because it requires me to live in a world I don't live in. Like, would I watch Raw every single week? I probably wouldn't. If there's a bad episode, then next week I'd probably give it a miss and I'd probably read about it first or watch things like ups and downs and then make my mind up about what I wanted to see. I'd probably be watching Dynamite still because I would have been so intrigued as a new fan. I don't think they've done anything wrong to push me away. I'd be watching NXT. SmackDown is 2 hours. I find that a breeze, so I'd be watching that. But that's my gut. I think the only reason... I think I probably would watch large chunks of Raw, but I don't think I'd be able to get through 120 minutes just because it's long. We talk about this all the time. Nobody wants to do anything for 3 hours, which always triggers somebody to say, well, I want to have sex for 3 hours. And as I say to them, no, you don't. Your penis would be red raw, and after about 2.5 hours, you're going to be in pain, and you're not going to want to do it anymore. But I don't know. It's a great question. Because, I mean, my favorite thing about watching wrestling these days is that I get to be dumb about it. I get to be quirky about it. I get to take the mick out of it. I get to say what I love and what I hate and then present that to an audience who is very receptive and very engaged. And I'm very blessed to do that. I'm very lucky to do that. And it's my favorite thing. So, again, my opinion on it is skewed. But hey, that's 2019. The wrestling world has changed, and that is a way hence we have reaction videos, right? The What Culture guys did it over the weekend for Survivor Series. They'll do it again. You have this brand new way that you can, a brand new way to involve yourself in wrestling is to moan about it on Reddit or moan about it on Twitter. And that's cool. If you're enjoying it and you're entertained, then you haven't done anything wrong. I always say this, there's no such thing. There's nothing wrong with being a fanboy, and there's nothing wrong about being biased, and there's nothing wrong with having favorites. The issues is when that you take umbrage with somebody else that's doing the same. That's when the logic all falls apart from me. If we could all just smile and nod and go, okay, they like WWE, but I like AEW, or vice versa, it would all be good, but we don't. We then start yelling at other people, and that's what I don't like. So, yeah, it would be interesting, but hopefully that never happens. I'm very happy doing what I do. I never want it to go away. I care about it a lot. I want to do a good job and all those things. Good point. I said 120 minutes. I meant 180 minutes. So I talked about SmackDown. So I'm intrigued to see what they do on SmackDown this week. Talking of SmackDown, we're probably going to continue the Roman Reigns Baron Corbin feud, which I'm not massively into. I want to know who the Fiend's next feud within. I've read it's The Miz. What does Daniel Bryan do? Does he go after the Intercontinental title and win that brand new shiny belt? Leather, too. He's not going to like that. So, it will... at least I'm intrigued, and I want to see what's going on. I'm especially interested about NXT. I think they've done a great job in building up the likes of Keith Lee, Adam Cole, Rhea Ripley. Dakota Kai, if you're into her. Although that's more from an NXT, that didn't really breach out into Raw and SmackDown. And hopefully they've done such a good... Shayna Baszler, too. Hopefully they've done such a good job that you now see them a bit more as stars. And when Wednesday rolls around and you weren't watching before, you do. Not over Dynamite or vice versa, whatever you want to do, but I mean in general. I hope that it works because I want everyone to do well and I want everyone to make loads of money. And I think that's it. I think that's everything that's happened over the last 24 hours. We did Survivor Series yesterday, special episode, as you know. And if you are listening on the podcast and you've noticed the extended running time, it's because I put that podcast at the end of this one, should you not care about Survivor Series, given that it's a couple of days. But otherwise, yeah, and people are mentioning Sheamus in the twat. That's a thing, in the chat. Sheamus in the chat is a really hard thing to say. He was backstage at Survivor Series because Cesaro posted a lot of pictures of him on Instagram. However, I knew he wouldn't come back because it was meant to be a secret that would never happen. I don't know when. He's got spinal stenosis, which is no picnic, and I hope he's okay. I know he's got himself into phenomenal shape, and I've always felt that Sheamus was underrated as well. I'd like to see him back. I think he's got a good tenure there. He does have a veteran status to him, and I think people would enjoy seeing him back. So hopefully soon. Silent is her weapon. Zero says, SmackDown, can't wait for some smack clowns. It's true. I will be dressing up as a clown for this week's episode of SmackDown. For the people that went nuts at me, I wasn't able to do it on Survivor Series because I'm not going to buy a clown outfit if there's no need. And I ordered my clown outfit yesterday, but it only arrived this afternoon. So we're going to do it on Saturday for Smack Clowns, as Silence has said. And I'll dress up as a clown. And I'm not doing it. I'm not, dressing up as the Joker or like It or some cool clown. I have a dumb clown outfit because I'm a man of my word, which is ironic because that's what the Joker says in the Dark Knight. But I'm a man of my word. I'll dress up as a clown and I'll just, throw my reputation into the ground. Not that I really had a reputation anyway. Shout out to Chicken Salad in the Super Chat, who just threw some money in there. Thank you, Chicken. Appreciate it. And Jose Ruda says in the Super Chat, I love Umberto so much, they keep doing him wrong. Tell me about it, dude. I agree. I thought you should at least have had... I can't be too mad at it because I love the alternative. But he is being treated a bit like a chump. He never wins. He got that fluke win in the six-man tag last week. He's meant to have an AJ Styles US title match. Doesn't, gets beaten up. If they're going to push him, they've got to do something big soon. But let's hope they do. He's very, very talented. Best moonsault I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. It's so smooth. Him and Io Shirai, just nuts. But no, I'm with you, man. I hope that they do. And I think he has an upside. You just need to showcase that and not keep having him lose. So we'll see what goes down. It's early days for him, right? He's only just started on Raw and stuff. And I hope it goes the right way. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. Please do subscribe. I am amazingly, what am I on now? I'm on 90,100 subscribers, which means I am 9,900 and... Sorry, I'm 9,000, basically 9,000 subscribers from 100,000, which is crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Did I say 9,000? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what I'm talking about. Which is nuts. I'd love to get there before the end of the year, so please do subscribe. Otherwise, if you want some merch, simonmiller.bigcartel.com for all those people that keep asking. Shout out to pinsandknuckles.com who sponsor this podcast. Check out pinsandknucklesmerch.com too. If you want to come call me a bald asshole on Twitter, you can at SimonMiller316 and Instagram SimonMiller316. And all of this is all thanks to Super Chats. So a salute to everyone that Super Chatted today. I put all that money back into my personal projects, as I do with my Patreon, patreon.com/SimonMiller316. Even if you just put that into your web browser and check it out, I'd appreciate it. If someone takes your fancy, awesome. If you want to throw a dollar in there, awesome. If you don't, it's all good. Don't worry about it. Again, we're on all audio services as well, if you'd rather walk around and do it. But otherwise, we'll be back later in the week. We're going to have a Patreon member on at some point too, which you can also do again through that means. I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed Raw. I hope you enjoyed SmackDown. If you didn't, don't worry. AEW Dynamite is coming up in just over 24 hours' time. AEW Dark is tonight. Kenny Omega, I believe, is on AEW Dark. We can find that out right now. I swear there's a big match on AEW Dark tonight. And I'm pretty sure, because they must have set the premiere up now already. Actually, sometimes they don't, do they? Sometimes they don't do it till sort of, they haven't done it yet. I think Kenny Omega is on AEW Dark this evening defending his AAA championship, which I hope so, because Kenny Omega is just great. So that's another reason to watch. And of course, we'll have NXT as well. So much good. And then I think we need a break. I think we need to calm down because there has been a lot of wrestling. There has been a lot of wrestling recently. But have great days. Thank you, as always, for the support. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm done. Love you.